وَلَا نَقُولُ بِخَلْقِهِ, that we do not say it is created. This now leaves us with the issue of the jama'ah. وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. We do not oppose the jama'ah of the Muslimin. What does this mean? First of all, this word jama'ah, the word jama'ah means a group. And it is used in two senses or two ways. The first way is the jama'atud deen. Jama'atud deen. Meaning to be united on the basis of religion. Meaning on the basis of belief. On the basis of creed. This is one sense in which the word jama'ah is used. The second sense in which the word jama'ah is used is in the sense of al-abdan. Jama'atul abdan. Meaning unity in terms of the physical bodies. In terms of the physical bodies. Bodies being together and being one, being together, physically united. So these are the two senses which are intended by the word jama'ah. What is the opposite of al-jama'ah? What is the opposite of being a united group? The opposite is al-furqa. Al-furqa. Al-furqa means separation. It means separation. Now we see that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered that we be united. And He has prohibited that we are separated and split. And He has in fact commanded both of these things. He has commanded unity in the religion and unity physically as well. And likewise He has prohibited splitting and separating in the religion, and likewise splitting and separating physically as well. We will find that in the Quran and the Sunnah, both of these commands and prohibitions will be found. And also, these two issues are connected. These two issues are connected. When we are united in the religion, in creed, it automatically follows that we will be united as in a body. Right? And when we are separated and split in terms of the religion, in terms of the creed that we hold, when there are splits in the creed, it automatically follows that there will be splits in, like physically speaking as well. So these two things are binding and they follow on from each other. Unity in creed means unity physically speaking. And separation in creed means separation physically speaking. And as an incidental side point, which is worthy of being made here before we continue, that from this you can see the falsehood and the corruption in the methodologies of all of those groups, the jama'at, which came in the 20th century, and they claimed to be trying to unite the Muslims. And their idea of uniting the Muslims isn't upon the sense that we are speaking of here, meaning uniting them in belief, as a result of which naturally their hearts and their bodies will be united. No, what they meant was that we want to just gather everybody together, irrespective of his belief, irrespective of his creed, irrespective of his ideology. So he can be a Shi'i, or a Jahmi, or a Mu'tazili, or a extreme Sufi, all of them, let's bring them all together under one umbrella. And this was the notion and idea of unity. And this is something that was the foundation of all of these political groups in the 20th century, Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Hizb ut-Tahrir, and all of the splinter groups that we see, all of these extremist groups that arose in the 20th century. All of them are ignorant of this reality, of this fact, that unity in creed is tied like this to unity physically speaking. And separation in creed leads to separation in the bodies. And also it works the other way around as well. That when there's separation in bodies, it leads to separation in creed. So it works actually both ways, as the Shaykh explains here. So here when Imam al-Tahawi says, وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, this in fact is a very deep and profound statement. It's a very deep and profound statement. In fact, it summarizes two core essential elements of our belief and methodology as people who follow the way of the Salaf. What are they? The first of them is what we've just mentioned, that we must be united in terms of the creed upon what the Sahaba were upon. This is the first thing. This is one meaning of the word Jama'ah. The word Jama'ah means to not depart and exit from what the companions were upon and what the Salaf, the righteous generations of old, what they were upon. The companions, tabi'in. Right? This is one sense of the meaning of the word Jama'ah. وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And the second meaning of the word Jama'ah, which involves the bodies, is to be united behind the ruler of the Muslims. Right? This is what we mean, that the bodies are united and they are kept intact. That we are united behind the ruler of the Muslims. And that we don't start splitting the ranks of the Muslims, we don't start disobeying the ruler and rebelling and revolting against the ruler. And all of this comes under this meaning of وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. We don't oppose the Jama'ah of the Muslimin. This does not mean what these astray groups claim it means, that everyone must be united under a single umbrella, irrespective of belief. And this doesn't mean what they're saying. This sentence here, when we use the word Jama'atul Muslimin, it has two specific meanings. Number one, we never depart from what the Sahaba were upon in our belief, and we remain united behind the ruler of the Muslims and not create any dissension or any separation or splitting. Right? So this is a great and mighty statement made by Imam al-Tahawi here. And again, another point that should be made, that when we look, this is the creed of the Muslims, this is the methodology of the Muslims, that we do not create tribulations and trials, even if the ruler might be tyrannical or sinful. It is from the Sharia of Islam that we have patience upon that. And again, this is a legislation that the mind of no man could produce. If you were to leave things to the minds of men, you would find, and in fact this is what we actually see in the whole of history, that when you look in the minds of all thinkers and writers and philosophers in the whole history of men, you will see that they have written that when we see the ruler being oppressive, tyrannical, and taking the rights of the people, you will see all of them writing ideas of revolution, justice, rebellion, and so on and so forth. In the whole of history, past and modern, present, if you look at all of the philosophers of the 19th, 20th centuries, Rousseau and all these people, and they write about justice and whatever else, you see that they are promoting the revolution, social revolution, toppling the ruler, and so on and so forth. And likewise, you will see them asking for all of the people to be united and come together in order to fight injustice. Right. And then when you look at the Sharia of Islam, you see that the Sharia of Islam is completely the opposite. That on the one hand, it commands the Muslims not to create dissension and turmoil and tribulation by having patience upon the tribulation of the ruler. And on the other hand, it calls for warning against those people of deviation who actually split the hearts of the Muslims, and to speak against them and to warn from them and to protect the Muslims from their evil. We see that it's the other way around compared to what we see all of these jama'at doing. Right? They want to topple the rulers and they want to unite every Muslim, no matter what he's upon, for that purpose. So we see it's completely the other way around. And that's why we consider what is happening in the Muslim lands today, of these revolutions and tribulations, be it in Egypt or in Algeria or in whichever country we see these things are happening, that all of this really is something in which there is more harm for the Muslims than there is benefit. And if only they adhered to the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and and they stuck to the usul, the foundations of the belief of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and they had patience, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would provide for them a way out. And we see from many of the narrations from the Salaf that some of them would say that indeed having patience upon a ruler and his tyranny for 70 years is far better than living in chaos and tribulation for a single night. Right? And it's true when you reflect upon this, because maybe in a single night or a single day you might lose thousands of lives that you wouldn't lose maybe in a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades or whatever. Right? And so these are things, as we said, that these are types of things that the minds of men, they cannot fathom and they cannot bring the likes of this legislation that we find in the Sharia of Islam. And so, in that context, we see here At-Tahawi saying, وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. We don't oppose the Jama'ah, the united group of the Muslims. But what is this united group? This group here is in those two senses. That we don't depart from what the Sahaba were upon. We don't leave their creed, because that is the basis of unity. Nor do we rebel and cause schisms in the country, and we don't create turmoil which leads to splitting of the bodies. Right? This is a crucial part of our belief. And it's strange why you never see revolutions in England or America or France or Germany or any of these places. These people we don't find revolutions taking place in these countries, because in these countries they already have how can I put it? They don't allow these types of things to take place, because they know it creates chaos and turmoil and destruction and tribulation, and it destroys the worldly affairs. It destroys the welfare of the people. That's why you don't see revolutions taking place in these countries. But these revolutions are encouraged in the Muslim lands, and unfortunately we Muslims don't understand that. Why is it that we don't see revolutions taking place in these Western countries? Why don't we see turmoil and tribulation and chaos and whatever? Because the rulers of these nations, they understand and they know that in revolutions, they had revolutions centuries ago in Europe, and those days are gone and bypassed. And they don't allow these revolutions because they understand that revolutions bring chaos and destruction, and they're not in the interests of anybody. But on the other hand, we see revolutions are promoted and encouraged in the lands of the Muslims, and the Muslims don't actually understand this, right? This is alongside the fact that their Quran and the Sunnah that they profess to follow, and the Messenger they profess to follow, has told them how to behave in situations like this, right? Not to engage in rebellions, revolutions, to have patience, and there are explanations why this tyranny and turmoil is brought about in the first place, right? And so alongside this, and alongside the non-Muslims not having the book, not having the Sunnah, not having the revelation, they actually understand better than the Muslims that revolutions bring chaos and destruction and harm, and that's why they do not allow them to take place in their countries, because they already have their infrastructure in place. They don't want their economies to be demolished. They don't want their political structures to be demolished. They understand that this only causes chaos in the long term for everybody. So how ironic it is that the Muslims do not act upon the book and the Sunnah, despite the fact that these affairs are being made clear. And those who don't have the book and the Sunnah, don't have any revelation, don't have any light, don't have any guidance, they understand this affair better than the Muslimin. So these two meanings are incorporated in the statement of Imam At-Tahawi rahimahullah, وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And the Shaykh makes a point here, which is that the scholars often say that, such as Ibn al-Qayyim, that sometimes even a single man on his own, he can be the Jama'ah. One man on his own, he can be the Jama'ah. If there's only found one person, let's say in a town or a city, he's the only person who is upon the Aqeedah, the creed of the Salaf, of the companions. This individual is the Jama'ah. This is the Jama'ah. Why? Because upon the meaning that we said before, the Jama'ah isn't everybody. The Jama'ah is what agrees with the truth. As Ibn Mas'ud said, Al-Jama'atu ma wafaqa al-haq. The Jama'ah is what agrees with the truth. وَإِن كُنْتَ وَحْدَكَ. Even if you are by yourself, even if you are alone, by yourself. So a single person can be the Jama'ah even if everybody else is in opposition to him. If he is upon that which the companions were upon, then he is the Jama'ah. Likewise, an example here in the time of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when the tribulation of the Quran being created, and we find that Imam Ahmad, he was alone, along with maybe just a group of other people, a handful of other people who were with him in that regard, then they became known as the Jama'ah. They were the Jama'atul Muslimin. They were the Jama'ah because they held fast that which the companions were upon. So these two meanings of the word Jama'ah, they are taken, in fact, there are proofs for each of these two meanings. The hadith of splitting, the hadith when the Messenger said that only one of the 73 groups will be saved, the Jama'ah. In another hadith he said, those who are upon what I and my companions are upon. All of these are evidences of these two meanings that we are explaining here. And likewise the hadith that relate to the rulers and adhering to the Jama'ah and not splitting, and so all those hadith that relate to the rulers, likewise that is also a proof of the second meaning that we are speaking of here from the speech of Imam al-Tahawi. So again, we don't want to go into detail and mention all those evidences. Those are already known and present. But just to show that the speech of Imam al-Tahawi, rahimahullah, وَلَا نُخَالِفُ جَمَاعَةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, that we understand it in its correct way, and that it includes these two senses, these two meanings, which in themselves are firmly established in the texts of the Quran and the Sunnah. In the Quran and the Sunnah, there are proofs for these specific two meanings. So with that, we conclude our lesson here.